All right, let's talk about a retirement strategy that basically throws all the conventional wisdom right out the window. Is it a genius shortcut to freedom, or is it just dangerously risky? Let's dig in. Okay, look at this number, $125,000. Now, what if I told you that could be enough for a couple to retire on? I know, it sounds absolutely impossible, right? We're all told we need millions and millions to even think about it. So that's the real question we're digging into. How on earth can a number that small even be in the same sentence as retirement? Well, it all comes down to a very different way of looking at the math. So seriously, how is a number this low even possible? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. It's about combining two key income streams to cover what an average retiree actually spends. Okay, let's break down the numbers and remember, these are just national averages. For a typical retired couple, Social Security might kick in about 48 grand a year. If their spending is around the average, say 58 grand, that leaves a gap of just $10,000. So to generate that 10 grand from your investments with an 8% withdrawal, you'd only need $125,000. And just like that, the math works out, at least on paper. And that brings us to the engine that makes this all run, Dave Ramsey's very controversial 8% rule. This is where his math takes a sharp turn away from traditional financial advice. So let's see how this thing is actually supposed to work. The whole thing starts with a really big assumption that your investments are going to earn an average of 12% a year. Ramsey's strategy is built on going all in on growth stock mutual funds. You know, the ones that hold shares in those innovative, fast-growing companies that are expected to crush the overall market. So you get that 12% return. The next step is to withdraw a pretty aggressive 8% of it to live on. In our earlier example, that's the money that filled that $10,000 gap between Social Security and your living expenses. And here's the crucial part. After you take out your 8%, there's still 4% left over. That money stays invested. The idea is that this little bit of leftover growth acts as a buffer against inflation, so your spending power doesn't shrink over the years. In theory, your nest egg never actually runs out. It's supposed to keep growing forever. Okay, so we get the 8% rule now, so let's put it head to head with its much more famous and, frankly, much more conservative cousin, the 4% rule. And this is where you really see two totally different philosophies on how to retire. This slide really gets to the heart of it. Ramsey's rule is all gas, no brakes, 100% stocks chasing maximum growth. The 4% rule, on the other hand, was literally designed by a guy named Bill Bengen to survive the absolute worst-case scenarios in market history. It uses a mix of stocks and bonds to keep things stable. It's the classic trade-off, isn't it? Go for high growth with high risk, or settle for lower growth with a lot more safety. And this isn't just a philosophical debate. This difference has a massive, real-world impact on the one thing everyone worries about, the total amount of money you actually need to save to quit your job. Just look at this. It's incredible. To get yourself an income of $77,000 a year, the traditional 4% rule says you need almost $2 million. But with the 8% rule, you'd need just under $1 million. We are talking about needing almost half as much money to retire. That is a life-changing, game-changing difference. But you knew there had to be a catch, and it's a big one. That road to higher returns is not exactly a smooth ride. This brings us to the single biggest risk of this whole strategy: market volatility. Let's make this feel real. Imagine you did it. You retired. You got a $100,000 portfolio, all in those high-growth funds. You're feeling pretty good. And then the market takes a nosedive. Because those growth stocks are just so much more volatile, your portfolio could easily get cut in half. A 50% drop. Your 100 grand is suddenly worth 50 grand. Meanwhile, a more standard S&P 500 fund might only be down 30%. That difference is absolutely gut-wrenching, and it's the exact moment when people are tempted to panic and sell at the worst possible time. And this really says it all. The 8% strategy isn't just a math problem, it's a psychological test. You have to be able to watch your life savings get chopped in half and not flinch, trusting that it's all going to recover eventually. That is a huge ask for anyone, especially for a retiree who's depending on that money. So after all this back and forth about 4% versus 8%, what if the most important number isn't a percentage at all? Let's talk about the one concept that might be the true key to a successful retirement, no matter which strategy you're using. And that key is just flexibility. It's the simple idea that you don't have to be a robot about this. You can actually react to what the market is doing. Tighten your belt in the bad years and maybe spend a little extra in the good years. And here's what that looks like in the real world. The market crashes 30%. Maybe you just postpone that big trip to Europe. Inflation's running hot. You hold off on buying that new car. It's just common sense, but it's amazing how rarely it's factored into these rigid withdrawal models. It's all about letting your portfolio breathe and recover when it needs to. And this is such a powerful point. Even Bill Bengen, the guy who came up with the super safe 4% rule, has since said that a higher rate, maybe closer to 5%, can work perfectly fine for retirees who are willing to be flexible. That tells you everything. The real secret isn't the number itself, it's your behavior. So when you boil it all down, this isn't really a financial debate, it's a personal one. It really just comes down to which kind of risk you're more comfortable taking on in your own life. I mean, look at the two sides. With a conservative plan, you risk working way longer than you have to, putting off your dreams, and maybe dying with a pile of money you never got to enjoy. With the aggressive plan, you face the very real risk of outliving your money if things go south, or panic selling during a crash and locking in devastating losses. And that leaves us with this final question to really think about. It's a choice between two different fears. Is your main goal absolute financial security, even if it means sacrificing years of freedom to your job? Or is it about maximizing your life, living the fullest you can, even if it means accepting more financial risk along the way? There's no single right answer. There's only the one that's right for you.